What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it's time to give you another game preview / game prediction for the 2023 college football season. And our next game preview / game prediction will be Week 4's matchup between the Florida State Seminoles and the Clemson Tigers. Big conference game coming up here in the ACC this upcoming weekend. Probably one of the biggest games coming up this weekend as well. I mean, a lot of people think this is not going to be the biggest game now of the weekend. I mean, there are a lot of other great games. You got Oregon and Colorado coming up this weekend. You got, of course, like conference games starting up as well. You got Notre Dame and Ohio State. We did that, game preview / game prediction a couple days ago, and you can go back and watch that video if you have not seen it yet. But there's not a lot of storylines going into this game. What we do know, though, is Florida State's undefeated, and then Clemson, they have that one loss to Duke in week number 1. But I think we're kind of expecting a really good matchup here. Florida State, we'll talk about them a little bit more here, and we'll talk about Clemson a little bit more as well. But how this video works, I'm going to give you the stat comparisons between these two teams, and then we'll also give you the game summary of what time the game will be, and obviously who the favorite going into the game is going to be. And then obviously we'll give you the keys to the game here for both of these teams to win the game this weekend, and then we'll give you a prediction of how the game will go down. So Florida State versus Clemson, game preview / game prediction. Again, if you saw all my game preview / game predictions, again, these are how the videos work and everything. So let's get right into it here with our game preview / game prediction here for the Florida State Seminoles and the Clemson Tigers. So we'll start with the stat comparisons between these two teams. Florida State comes into this game with a record of 3-0. They come off that big win against LSU in that first game of the season. And then they took care of business against Southern Miss in the week number 2 game. But then they had a really up-and-down game against Boston College. Now, you have to be aware that maybe Florida State was not focused in that game. But you look at the offense, points per game, they're averaging about 47.3 points per game. That is a really good number there. You like to see that number for Florida State. They're averaging about 462.7 yards per total yards this year on the offensive side of the football. Very explosive offense this Florida State team has been in the first 3 games. Passing yards, 273 yards per passing. Jordan Travis has had a really good start to the year. This will be his toughest test, though, when he goes on the road and plays at Clemson. So we'll see how he does in his first true road game of the season. I mean, I wouldn't say first true road game. It's going to be a very tough environment that he plays in. He had his first true road game against Boston College, but rushing yards, this is a team that, was good at running the football last year. It just seems like the running game's kind of taken a step back this year. They're kind of focusing on the, passing game a little bit more. They're averaging about 189.7 yards on the ground. Offensively in the rankings, 33rd on offense, and then defensively, the defense hasn't been strong for Florida State. That's a number that I don't think is correct. I mean, I probably didn't do my research right, but that's what it said on CBS. It says they were 103rd in the country. So, again, Florida State's offense is very explosive. Defense is going to have some work to do. But Clemson, looking at their stat comparisons to Florida State, this is a team that's coming in with a record of 2-1. They're coming off that loss to Duke in week number 1, and they obviously took care of business in their last 2 games of the, in the last 2 weeks and everything. They're averaging about 40.3 points per game, so you can see that offense is a little bit getting better for Clemson. They're averaging about 489.3 per total yards this year. More than Florida State, surprisingly. Passing yards, 272.7 yards per passing. It seems like Caleb Klubnik has gotten better as a quarterback as of late. And this is a Clemson team that can run the football really well. They can run the football. They're averaging about 216.7 yards per rushing. I don't think Clemson would be able to win these games without Will Shipley being in there. He's one of the top running backs in the ACC as of right now, I believe. And then offensively in the rankings, they're 20th on offense, and then defensively, they're 7th in the country. So again, Clemson has a great defense, but their offense is going to be the key in this game. If Clemson offense can, just score some points, they have a really good chance to win this game. So those are the stat comparisons between these two teams. Florida State, again, averaging more points here than Clemson, but Clemson averaging more total yards per game. And I think Clemson has a better defense than Florida State. It's not really just based off of the rankings. It's usually just based off of the first 3 games, which Florida State's defense has been good, but, I don't think that ranking is right. We'll have to look back and see what the research looks like. But these are the stats here for both of these teams in 2023 and the first 3 weeks of the college football season. All right, let's go to the game summary now. Florida State and Clemson. Game time is at noon Eastern time this Saturday on ABC. Clemson has got home field advantage going into this game. Florida State, though, favored by 2 points in this one. So, yeah, just about by 2 points. That's a pretty low number, pretty low spread here, even though they're heading on the road for the first time in a tough place to play. And then the over and under is at 55.5. So they're kind of predicting this game to be a low-scoring type game. I think both defenses will be ready for this game. I think offensively we're not going to see a lot of points scored in this game. I'm kind of very surprised this is not like an ESPN-type game or maybe like a, like a, Fox game, or not a Fox game. I think it should just be an ESPN type game, or maybe it's an ACC network type game because it is on the ACC and everything. But again, this is a big time game. Clemson may be unranked in this game, but I still think Clemson is a very talented team. They have a really good opportunity to pull off a huge upset here. And if Clemson wins this game, they're back in the ACC conversation. That's the biggest storyline here. Is Clemson still that same team that they used to be in the ACC, or all these other teams just getting back to where they need to be? So Florida State, they haven't won a national title since 2014. They're kind of, getting back to where they once, once were. I mean, back then they had Jameis Winston and all that kind of stuff, and, Florida State was a really good powerhouse program. They're kind of, starting to get back to where they need to be. But this is a very, very tough game that they're going up against, and, a very tough environment in Death Valley. Clemson crowd going to be fired up for this game, even though Clemson is not even ranked. So, again, Florida State comes into this game as the number 4th ranked team in the country, 3-0. Clemson unranked at 2-1. I have Clemson ranked in my top 25 at number 12. I'm not going to penalize them after losing to Duke. I mean, I know they lost that game, 3 weeks ago, but I didn't really penalize them that much. Again, Clemson, they have home field advantage, but Florida State favored by 2 points, and the over and under is at 55.5. And again, it's a 12 o'clock noon Eastern time game. Surprise is not a night game either, so that is the game summary for both of these teams. All right, let's go to the keys to the game here for both of these teams. Starting with Florida State, the defense has to make stops. This offense probably could be really good, for Clemson in this game, but I think the defense is going to make stops. That's been the issue for Florida State so far, even if I'm not correct or not. I mean, I just don't really think the stats, do not matter. I think Florida State has a great defense to stop this Clemson offense. Jordan Travis has to play his best game. I mean, kind of, didn't play his best game against Boston College. The offense kind of had a hard time moving the football. I mean, Jordan Travis is going to have to make some really good throws in this game, and obviously the offense has to make explosive plays. Actually, I think both sides of the football for Florida State have to really make explosive plays because this offense is very explosive. The defense can make some stops, and they're going to have to be really aggressive on that defensive side of the football. For Clemson, be aggressive on defense. Their defense has been really good this year. They're 7th in the country. They also had to pressure Jordan Travis, make him uncomfortable in the pocket, and then they have to run the football. Will Shipley's going to have to really play a big game here for this Clemson offense. He's going to have to get up to about 100 yards on the ground here for this game. And if he has that type of game, Clemson will be able to win this game. If Clemson just brings their A game on the offensive side of the football, if they stay consistent, don't turn the ball over, Caleb Klubnik throws out of the pocket, tries to make a really good throw downfield. If he doesn't make those kind of mistakes, Clemson will win this game. But again, it's a very tough game to predict when you look at both of these teams. I mean, both of these teams, I think, are pretty even. Florida State, again, these are the keys to the game here for both of these teams to win their games. For Florida State, defense has to make stops. Jordan Travis has to play his best game. It's going to be the biggest game of his career here for this Florida State team. And then number 3, make explosive plays on both sides of the football. And then again for Clemson, be aggressive on defense, pressure Jordan Travis, and then run the football. Again, Will Shipley's going to have to get some big-time blocks from the offensive line. And Caleb Klubnik cannot make the mistakes in this game. So these are the keys to the game. Let's now get to the prediction for this game. So Florida State versus Clemson, an ACC conference matchup. We kind of expected both of these teams to be ranked in the top 10 when this matchup, comes up this weekend, but obviously that wasn't the case. Clemson lost to Duke, in week number 1. But Florida State's off to a good start. They beat LSU, and they obviously beat Boston College in a close one. But maybe, Florida State was not focused on Boston College. They were focused on this Clemson team from a week later. So I think Florida State's going to compete in this game. It's a very tough place to play, though. Jordan Travis's first road test, against a really good Clemson team. Like I said, Clemson is not that bad of a team. I think they, if they win this game, they're back in that ACC conversation, and I think the ACC could be definitely wide open. You got other undefeated teams in the ACC like Louisville and Miami and North Carolina. I don't think this game really decides who's the best team in the ACC. For Florida State, if they win this game, they're kind of like those front runners right now. And if Clemson wins this game, they're back in that ACC championship conversation. But how I think the game's going to go down, I think Clemson, their defense is going to be strong in this game. Florida State will kind of hold Clemson's offense to fewer points. I think it's a low-scoring type game, but in my preseason, I did pick Clemson to win this game by at least a couple touchdowns, but I don't think that's going to be the case now. I think Clemson is only going to win by 7 touchdowns. But I'm going to stick with my preseason pick. I'm going to pick Clemson to win this game 27-20 and give Florida State their first loss of the season. I think what changes the game later on in the fourth quarter, I think a turnover probably changes the game. Or maybe maybe a late touchdown by Clemson changes the game. But I think a late, turnover changes the game. And also I think Clemson wants to run out the clock in this game. They want to keep running the football and keep that Florida State offense off the field. So I think Clemson wins this game. I'm going to stick with my preseason pick. I'm going to pick Clemson to win this one just because of home field advantage. I mean, you could just see how tough this game is. Really hard to predict based off of what Clemson has done. That first game didn't go their way, but I think it's going to go their way in this game. I think Clemson wins it in a close one, 27-20, and I'm going to still pick my preseason pick, and I think Clemson will get back in that ACC championship conversation. But that is my prediction, game preview / game prediction for the Florida State Seminoles versus the Clemson Tigers in Week 4's ACC matchup. Give me your thoughts down in the comments below. Who do you think wins this game, Clemson or Florida State? And also give me your final score predictions down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports channel.